Let's talk about the disaster at Gladden Fields. After the last lines of humans and elves, everyone returned back to their natural home. Now, Isildur had come back to Gondor because he claimed himself king, and he stayed there for about a year. And after he felt good enough, he'd done everything he wanted to do there for a year, he decided he needed to go to Isildurs, where his wife and youngest son was. So, with about 200 knights and troops, all on foot, because they didn't have any horses, there just weren't enough around anyway. He went with his 3 sons as well, their sons Isildur, Aratan and Seogon. They left and they headed to Isildurs. Everything was fine for the first part of the journey. After they passed over the Dagorlad on the 20th day, that's when stuff started to happen. They crossed the Dagorlad and into the wide open lands of the Greenwood the Great. For 4 days it rained, and then they passed over into the vales of Loren and Adaman, between Loren and Adaman. And as they walked through it, the rivers were filled massively, swelled by rain. So they turned away from the river Anduin to the eastern side to gain higher elevation, so they could get out of the way of all the water and go along the side of the forest. On for another 6 days. On the 30th day, the troops of the Dunedain were all singing. They were happy. The day's march was about to come to an end because it was late afternoon. And there they were passing Gladden Fields. Look, a field with 2/3 of the 3/4 of the march behind them. They were so happy, but then they started hearing the war cries of the orcs. Many times outnumbered, some say even 10 times outnumbered the 200 Dunedain. They were unable to break through, and help was at least 4 days away, where Thranduin, Legolas's dad. Isildur calls Ota and one other. This is disputed, some say it was 3, some say it was 2, but that doesn't matter. He gave the shards of Narsil to him to get him away, and even if he was called a coward, get away, make it safe, go get help. Fortunately, all the humans, the Dunedain, towered above the orcs, and they were able to outlast them and push them back, which was wicked. Immediately, Isildur ordered a march on to keep going forwards, to get out of the way, get out of dodge. But after a mile, they were attacked again, and this time they stayed quiet, and they encircled them. From the numbers, they were encircled them. They stayed out of the range of the archers' steel bows, which he only had 20. There was a cunningness and a hatred to these orcs, because unknown to the orcs and unknown to all the Dunedain, someone had a gold ring. Now, unknown to the orcs, this made them even more hated, even more full of hate and more wanting to unalive this lot. They had been left behind to cover, the orcs had been left behind to cover the escape, just in case anyone ran away, and now knowing that they thought they would get a lot of big up from Sauron, because he's like, look how many people we've killed. But if Sauron had found out what they'd done, I don't think they would be happy, because they had the ring. And if they'd lost the ring, which they did anyway, so potatoes. So the ring affected the orcs and made them ever so much more aggressive. So soon they all just rushed in. Isildur asked his dad, what about the ring? Can that not help us? Can that not control the orcs? But Isildur was like, I can't bend it to my will. I can't control them. This isn't something I can do. So he was just like, I need to give it to the 3. I need to give it to the three elven holders of their rings, because they'll know what to do with it. He didn't keep it for himself. He wanted help. He wanted to give it away because he knew he couldn't do anything about it. After the orcs finally gave in, they just a horn blast. Oh my god! A horn blast signalled the attack, and they all just rushed. They all just went, "Let's have it!" Now, the fight was intense, and for every 5 orcs were slain, one Dunedain was So it wasn't enough. So after a while, Suryon, Isildur's son, was unalived, and his brother Araton was also mortally wounded, trying to save him. So Elendor went to find Isildur, who was in the main fighting, in the depths of it, where it was the harshest. He went and told him, "Your son is dead. Your other son is dying. Get out of here. You need to go. You need to save the ring. You need to save the treasure. Leave us. Go." And Isildur was just like, "I couldn't do it without you asking me to do it. I couldn't leave. I'm so sorry about my pride that brought us to this. I should have gone earlier." His son begged him, actually begged him, and he was like, "Okay." Finally said, "Please don't hate me." So his son, Elendor, got to his knees and kissed his hand, and then he slipped on his ring, and it was painful. It actually gave him pain to put it on, and then he disappeared. But at the same time, he was wearing the Elendilmir on his brow. As soon as he put the ring on, the Elendilmir just shone bright red, just like a single eye in the single of his head, and everyone dispersed, was terrified of him. So he put his hood up and legged it like a stag down to the Anduin as fast as he could. When he got there, he was more cautious, and then he went stealthy up the road until about midnight, and then he was like, "I've got to get across the river." So he got rid of all of his armour, just had a short sword on his hip, swam across, and when he got out the other side, he was being dragged all the way back down. It was a very strong current, and on the other side he comes up, and it's pitch black, but the orcs could see him. He was through the nose, dead. And then they ran away. His body was never found. This is actually when he lost the ring. Well, sorry, I should have said this before, but as he was swimming across, it slipped off, and then he felt massive pain, and he was like, "Where is it? Where is it?" But then he got relief until he got to the other side. Obviously not invisible anymore, so the orcs and all the bodies, all the Dunedain were unalived. I think there was one survivor, one scout. Well, I think he was a squire. Anyway, he was a squire underneath bodies, and that's how they found him. And that's the disaster of Gladden Fields, and his body was never found again, except a squire who told the story of what we know today. Make sure you follow me. I make videos like this every day.